Have you ever stopped to question what you believe to be true? Could it be that the truths we hold are nothing more than the games we play with language? Are we trapped in a maze of words that we've created ourselves, only to lose track of what is real? These are the kinds of questions that Ludwig Wittgenstein, the brilliant philosopher whose work would challenge the very way we think, sought to answer. His ideas didn't just challenge the meaning of words, they questioned the entire structure of thought itself. Wittgenstein wasn't simply interested in philosophy as an academic pursuit. He saw it as a necessary tool to untangle the mess we had made of language, and in doing so, the mess we had made of our understanding of the world. Ludwig Wittgenstein was born in 1889 in Vienna, into a family of immense wealth and power. His father, Karl Wittgenstein, was a successful industrialist who had made a fortune in the steel industry. The Wittgenstein children were expected to excel, to carry on the family name with distinction, but beneath this outward perfection, there was a tragic undercurrent. 3 of Wittgenstein's brothers took their own lives, leaving a permanent scar on his psyche, one that would affect both his personal life and his work for the rest of his life. Yet despite this tragedy, Ludwig did not fit the mold of his aristocratic upbringing. He was not drawn to wealth or comfort, but to something much deeper. From a young age, he exhibited an intense interest in engineering, and it was in this field that he first sought purpose. He studied engineering in Berlin, then later at Manchester University in England. However, his engineering pursuits would soon be overshadowed by a discovery that would alter the course of his life. In 1911, he encountered the works of Bertrand Russell and Gottlob Frege, 2 of the leading philosophers of the time, and this encounter would propel him into a new world of intellectual exploration. In an instant, Wittgenstein abandoned engineering and turned his attention solely to philosophy. He moved to Cambridge to study under Russell, whose towering intellect and ideas had already started to revolutionize the world of logic. Russell, ever the keen observer, remarked that Wittgenstein's mind seemed to operate on a different plane altogether. Wittgenstein was either a genius or a madman, and perhaps, in some ways, he was both. Wittgenstein's approach to philosophy was not driven by a desire for recognition, nor was it grounded in the pursuit of fame. His obsession was to solve the problems that had plagued philosophers for centuries. He was not satisfied with small answers, with piecemeal solutions. Wittgenstein's goal was nothing less than to completely untangle the web of philosophy. He wanted to show that philosophy could solve all of its own problems, to rid the world of confusion and uncertainty. It was an ambitious, and as we now know, ultimately impossible, goal. When World War I broke out, Wittgenstein, ever the idealist, did not retreat from the world into academia. Instead, he enlisted in the Austro-Hungarian army, determined to serve at the front lines. It was during this tumultuous time, amidst the horrors of war, that he wrote his magnum opus, Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus. This work, though brief and fragmented, would come to define Wittgenstein's early philosophy and mark a turning point in the world of logical thought. The Tractatus is a highly unique work, one that is not easily understood nor easily explained. Wittgenstein didn't write it in a traditional manner. It's not a smooth, continuous argument. Instead, it is fragmented into a series of short, numbered aphorisms, each one building on the previous, but in ways that are often elusive and difficult to pin down. In this work, Wittgenstein sought to show that the structure of language itself mirrors the structure of reality. If we could understand the rules that govern language, he believed, we would unlock the mysteries of the world itself. In the Tractatus, Wittgenstein proposed a radical theory of language. He argued that language is not simply a tool for communication, it is a reflection of the world around us. Words, according to Wittgenstein, represent objects, facts, and states of affairs in the world. And if we could clarify the structure of language, we could remove all the confusions and ambiguities that had caused so many philosophical problems. Wittgenstein believed that this clarity would not just resolve philosophical puzzles, it would render philosophy unnecessary altogether. If we had clear, logical language, all problems of meaning would dissolve. But after the war, Wittgenstein's life took a dramatic turn. He gave up his family's fortune, choosing instead to live in isolation, first as a school teacher in rural Austria, then later in various monastic-like retreats. Despite his philosophical genius, Wittgenstein rejected all trappings of success. He saw himself not as a man of fame, but as a man searching for truth, a truth that was too important to be tainted by worldly concerns. But even as he tried to leave philosophy behind, it refused to leave him. Wittgenstein continued to grapple with the same fundamental issues that had plagued him during his time in Cambridge. His ideas evolved, and over time he came to realize that his earlier thoughts, those laid out in the Tractatus, had been flawed. Language, Wittgenstein came to understand, was not a static reflection of the world. It wasn't a mirror. It was far more fluid, more complex. In the 1920s, Wittgenstein returned to Cambridge, bringing with him new insights that would change the course of his career. No longer convinced that language could be reduced to a simple logical structure, he began to develop a more nuanced and flexible theory of language. He realized that the meaning of a word is not fixed. Rather, the meaning of a word is determined by its use within a particular context. This realization led to one of Wittgenstein's most groundbreaking ideas, the concept of language games. Think of a language game as a system of rules, where words have meaning only within the context of a specific set of interactions. Just as in a game of chess, the pieces have meaning only in relation to the rules of the game, words too have meaning only within the context in which they are used. Wittgenstein's idea of language games had profound implications, not just for philosophy, but for the way we live our lives. Consider how the word justice might be used in different contexts. In a courtroom, it might refer to the legal system's determination of right and wrong. In a political speech, it could refer to a moral ideal. In a conversation between friends, it might be used casually to express a personal sense of fairness. The same word, justice, can take on entirely different meanings depending on the game being played. This insight, though deceptively simple, has had an enormous impact on how we think about language, meaning, and the world. Wittgenstein showed us that language is not a neutral tool, like a hammer or a pen, but a living, breathing part of the world. Words do not exist outside of our social practices. They are intertwined with the way we act, the way we think, and the way we interact with others. The implications of Wittgenstein's work extend far beyond philosophy. His ideas have influenced fields ranging from linguistics to politics, from cognitive science to the arts. In particular, his work has had a lasting impact on the way we think about communication in a world where language is constantly shifting, adapting, and evolving. In our age of social media, where words can be manipulated, twisted, and redefined with the click of a button, Wittgenstein's insights seem more relevant than ever. In his later years, Wittgenstein continued to refine his ideas. His later work, Philosophical Investigations, was published posthumously, and it is this work that would come to define his legacy. Unlike the Tractatus, which sought to define language and the world in logical terms, Philosophical Investigations focuses on the variety of ways in which language is used. Wittgenstein argued that to understand language, we must explore the many different contexts in which words are used. No single fixed definition can capture their meaning. But perhaps Wittgenstein's most important lesson is that philosophy is not about finding answers. It is about asking the right questions. Philosophy is not about building elaborate systems of thought that claim to explain everything. Instead, it is about untangling the knots in our thinking, removing the confusion and misunderstanding that arise from our misuse of language. Wittgenstein's work encourages us to continually ask, what do we really mean when we use words? And how do the words we use shape the world around us? Wittgenstein's life and work serve as a powerful reminder that language is not just a tool we use to communicate, it is the lens through which we see the world. The struggle for meaning is not just an intellectual exercise, it is the very battle for control over how we understand reality itself. Wittgenstein's work leaves us with an enduring question. Are we prisoners of language? Or can we, through careful reflection, learn to see beyond the confines of our words? Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into the life and philosophy of Ludwig Wittgenstein. His legacy endures, challenging us to question the very words we speak and the world they create. As you leave, ask yourself, what language game am I playing? Wittgenstein's work leaves us with an enduring question. Are we prisoners of language? Or can we, through careful reflection, learn to see beyond the confines of our words? Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into the life and philosophy of Ludwig Wittgenstein. His legacy endures, challenging us to question the very words we speak and the world they create. As you leave, ask yourself, what language game am I playing?